Thanksgiving was supposed to be warm, loud, full of laughter and the smell of roasted turkey. Instead, I remember the silence. The kind that burns. My grandfather stood at the head of the table, a man worth billions. A man I had only ever seen in control with a dark bruise blooming beneath his eye. Every guest froze. My mother smirked, swirling her wine. "He got what he deserved," she said. "Dad taught him a lesson." My father grinned, proud of the violence everyone pretended not to see. I felt my stomach twist. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Then Grandpa reached into his coat and pulled out a black envelope. He didn't look at me. He looked at my mother. When he handed it to her, her smile vanished. Color drained from her face, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in her eyes. I could feel every eye flick between my mother, my father, and the black envelope resting in her manicured hands. The tension in the room was so sharp it could have sliced through the silverware. Grandpa didn't sit down. He just stood there, cane in hand, eyes steady on my parents like a man watching his own house burn down. My mom laughed awkwardly, trying to regain control. "Dad, please, this isn't funny. Everyone's watching." "I know," Grandpa said softly. "That's the point." I caught my father's glance cold, annoyed. He hated when Grandpa talked in riddles. "What's this about?" he asked. "You're making everyone uncomfortable." Grandpa ignored him. "Thanksgiving is about gratitude, isn't it?" His tone was calm, almost gentle. "But it's hard to be thankful when the people you love are the ones who hurt you most." I'm stare, buddy, into that why. The guests shifted in their seats. My mother's smile cracked. I stared at the bruise again, dark and swollen, right below his eye. That wasn't from age or clumsiness. That was from a fist. My throat tightened. "Grandpa," I whispered, "who did that to you?" He turned his gaze toward my father, and the room seemed to stop breathing. "Ask him," Grandpa said. My mother shot up from her chair. "That's enough!" But Grandpa's voice cut through her like thunder. "No, Rachel. It's finally enough." My father's jaw tensed, but he didn't deny it. Not even once. I didn't understand everything yet, but I knew, deep down, that whatever was inside that black envelope wasn't just going to change the night. It was going to destroy the family I thought I knew. 3 days before Thanksgiving, the house already smelled like tension. Mom was pacing in the hallway, her phone glued to her ear, whispering words like shares, trust fund, and transfer. I'd never seen her like that before, desperate, almost trembling. When she noticed me, she forced a smile. "Emma, sweetie, don't you have work to do?" I frowned. "Mom, are you arguing with Grandpa again?" She sighed, pretending to be exhausted. "Your grandfather's stubborn. He thinks the world owes him loyalty because he's rich. But we're family. That money should stay in the family." Her tone made me uneasy. "He already helped us," I said quietly. "He paid off the lake house, Mom." "That was nothing," she snapped. "After everything we've sacrificed for him?" But the truth was, Grandpa hadn't asked us to sacrifice anything. My parents chose to live under his wealth, his house, his cars, his lifestyle. That night, I overheard them arguing in their bedroom. My father's voice was low but venomous. "He's rewriting the will, Rachel. I saw the lawyer's call log. He's cutting us out." "Then we'll make sure he doesn't get the chance," Mom whispered. Those words froze me in the dark hallway. I stood there, heart hammering, realizing this wasn't about family anymore. It was about control. The next morning, Grandpa showed up at breakfast with his usual calm presence, same suit, same silver watch, same half smile. But there was something new in his eyes, something sharper. He looked at my parents and said simply, "I hope you both remember that greed always has a cost." They laughed it off. But by the end of that week, that cost had come due and it left a bruise under his eye that the whole world would see. Back at the dinner table, time felt slower, heavier. The sound of forks scraping plates echoed like thunder in my chest. Grandpa stood still at the head of the table, his bruise dark under the chandelier light. "Before we eat," he said quietly, "there's something I need to give you, Rachel." My mother looked confused, feigning politeness. "Dad, can this wait?" "We have guests." "No," he interrupted. "It's long overdue." He reached inside his coat pocket and pulled out that same black envelope. Thick, glossy, sealed with red wax. It looked more like a weapon than a document. He placed it in front of her plate, the way a judge might place a verdict. "What is this?" she asked, laughing nervously. "A reminder," he said. "For you. And for him." His gaze flicked toward my father. My father leaned back, arms crossed. "You're being dramatic, Henry." Grandpa's eyes didn't move. "I've earned the right to be dramatic after what you did." The words froze the air. I glanced around. The guests looked anywhere but at us. Even the candles seemed to burn quieter. My mother's fingers trembled as she broke the seal and pulled out a folded letter. A flash drive slid out onto the table. She unfolded the paper, her smile fading with each line she read. What is this?" she whispered. Grandpa didn't answer. Her voice rose, sharp now. "You're accusing us? You think we're thieves?" "I don't think," Grandpa said. "I know." He tapped the flash drive. "That's your handwriting, Rachel, and your husband's voice. Recorded last Tuesday, outside my study." My father's grin vanished. The color drained from his face. Grandpa continued, calm but lethal. "You tried to take what wasn't yours. So now I'm taking something back." For a second, no one spoke. The only sound was my mother's shaky breathing. "What's on that drive?" I asked softly. Grandpa turned to me. "Proof, Emma. The kind of proof that ends a lie forever." I didn't understand then what he meant, but I saw it in his eyes. He wasn't there to expose them. He was there to end them. And that black envelope was just the beginning. After dinner, the house buzzed with whispers and fake smiles. Guests were pretending to chat, but everyone was waiting for the explosion. It came sooner than expected. Mom slammed the kitchen door behind her. The letter crumpled in her hand. "You really think you can humiliate me in front of everyone?" she hissed. Grandpa stood near the counter, leaning on his cane, calm as a storm before it breaks. "I didn't humiliate you," he said. "You did that yourself." "You've always hated me," she snapped. "You made me beg for scraps while you lived like a king." "I gave you everything, Rachel," he replied. "A home, a future, opportunities you wasted chasing luxury instead of love." Her voice broke. "You don't know what it's like to live under your shadow." Grandpa's eyes hardened. "No, Rachel, you don't know what it's like to raise a daughter who would watch her husband hit her father." The words hit her harder than any slap could. I froze in the doorway, my heart pounding. "Mom, is that true?" She didn't answer. Her hand shook as she set the glass down on the counter. "He provoked us. Stop lying," Grandpa said quietly. "The bruise wasn't an accident. You were both there. Mark hit me when I refused to sign over my companies. You stood by and let him. I felt sick." "Dad did that?" "He said I needed to be taught respect," Grandpa continued. "He said you agreed." My mother's voice cracked. "He was angry. You were pushing him." "I was protecting my life's work," Grandpa shouted, for the first time losing composure. "You wanted to drain it dry." The silence after that felt infinite. I could hear the faint ticking of the grandfather clock, the shallow breaths of three people who no longer recognized one another. Mom finally whispered, "You're exaggerating. No one will believe you." Grandpa's lips curled into something between pity and warning. "I don't need them to. I already have proof. The black envelope wasn't just for show, it's my insurance." Then he turned to me, his voice soft again. "Emma, I didn't want you to see this side of them. But sometimes the only way to open someone's eyes is to let the truth burn." I looked at my mother, her face pale, her hands trembling, and realized that bruise under his eye wasn't just from violence. It was from betrayal. The kind that scars deeper than any wound. Grandpa straightened, the faintest tremor in his hand as he reached for his cane. "I've lived long enough to know one truth," he said quietly. "Money doesn't destroy people, it reveals them." He nodded toward me. "Emma, come here." I stepped closer, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. His eyes, still bruised and weary, softened when they met mine. "You deserve to know what I've done." My mother crossed her arms, her voice dripping with contempt. "What now? Another lecture?" Grandpa didn't even glance her way. "That black envelope wasn't just proof of your crimes. It held my new will." The words hit like thunder. Mom blinked, confused. Your what?" "I've signed everything over," he continued. "The estate, the companies, every share I built from the ground up." She laughed bitterly. "To who? Don't tell me you're leaving it to charity." Grandpa smiled faintly. "No. To Emma." The room went silent. My father's fork clattered onto his plate. What? My mother's voice cracked. You can't, she's a child. I'm 26, I said quietly. Grandpa's voice grew steadier. Old enough to understand integrity, young enough to rebuild what you destroyed. Mom's composure shattered. You're doing this to punish me. No, Grandpa said. I'm doing it to protect her from you. You stirred. It is not manger intended as the stand. My father stood up, his face red, veins rising along his neck. This is ridiculous. You can't just rewrite everything overnight. We'll contest it. You can try, Grandpa said calmly. But every document is notarized and filed. I even included the recordings from that night, your threats, Mark. The court will hear every word. My father's jaw tightened. You think this will make you a hero? You're a bitter old man. Grandpa's gaze hardened. I'm a man who finally learned that love without boundaries breeds monsters. Mom's tears came fast, furious. You're taking everything from me. No, he said. You took everything from yourself. The words echoed through the dining room. Even the air felt different, charged, heavy, final. I stared at Grandpa, my throat tight. Why me? I whispered. Why trust me with all of this? He smiled softly. Because when you saw the bruise, you were the only one who asked what happened, not what it was worth. Something inside me cracked. For the first time, I understood what he was doing, not just rewriting a will, but rewriting the future. Mom turned away, whispering under her breath, This isn't over. Grandpa's reply was calm, almost gentle. It already is. He leaned on his cane, his eyes glistening. I built this empire to protect my family. Now I'm giving it to the only one who still remembers what that word means. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't inherited his money, I'd inherited his war. The silence after Grandpa's announcement didn't feel real. It was the kind of silence that hums in your bones, thick, electric, waiting for something to break. Then my father laughed, a low, bitter sound. This is a joke, right? You're senile, Henry. Nobody's going to take this seriously. Grandpa didn't flinch. You hit me, Mark. You stole from me. You forged my signature. Believe me, the law will take it seriously. My mother's chair screeched across the floor as she shot to her feet. You can't talk to us like this. We're your family. Grandpa's voice was sharp as glass. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't stand by while their spouse throws punches. Stop it! I shouted, my own voice trembling. All of you, just stop! But they didn't. Mom's tears came fast, her tone twisting between grief and rage. Emma, he's manipulating you. He's always done this, pitting us against each other so he can stay in control. That's not true, I said. Open your eyes, she snapped. Everything you have, everything you are, came from him, and he'll take it back the moment you disappoint him. I shook my head. You're the one who disappointed him. She froze. For a second, I thought she might slap me. Instead, she turned toward Grandpa. You did this on purpose, she said coldly. You wanted her to hate me. Grandpa's voice softened. No, Rachel. You did that yourself. Dad slammed his hands on the table. Enough of this moral crap. You're not thinking clearly, Henry. You've been confused for years. Grandpa met his glare, calm and steady. The only thing I'm confused about is why I let you into my family in the first place. That did it. My father lunged forward, his chair toppling. You old. Before I even thought, I moved. My body was between them before I knew it. Don't you dare, I hissed. He froze, eyes wide, maybe from shock, maybe from the fact that his daughter was finally standing in his way. Get out, I said quietly. Excuse me? You heard me. Both of you. Leave. My mother's voice broke. Emma, please don't do this. We're family. Family? I said, my throat tightening. You stood there while Dad hit him. You tried to steal from him. You lied to me. That's not family. Dad's jaw tightened, fury boiling beneath his skin. You'll regret this, Emma. You have no idea how this world works. I met his glare head on. Maybe not, but I know how decency works, and you lost yours a long time ago. Grandpa's hand found mine, his grip firm despite the tremor. Emma, he said softly, let them go. There's nothing left here worth saving. Mom sobbed, her mascara streaking down her face. You'll regret this, Dad. You'll die alone, and she'll leave you just like everyone else. Grandpa didn't even raise his voice. I'd rather die alone than live surrounded by thieves. My father stormed out first, muttering curses under his breath. My mother lingered for one last, shaking glance at me. "He's turned you against us," she whispered. I swallowed the ache in my throat. "No, Mom. You did that the moment you chose money over love." The door slammed behind them. The echo hung in the air like an aftershock. For a long time, no one moved. Then Grandpa exhaled, shoulders sagging. "You did what I couldn't," he said. I wiped my eyes. "What's that?" Ended it. He looked older than ever, but also somehow lighter. "It's strange," he murmured. "I thought losing them would kill me. Turns out it just set me free." I squeezed his hand. "You're not losing everything, Grandpa." He smiled faintly. "No, I'm finally keeping what matters." And as I stood beside him, the empire that once felt built on pride and silence began to feel like something new, something earned through fire and truth. The house felt different after they left, too quiet, too clean, like the air itself was holding its breath. Grandpa sank into his favorite leather chair by the fireplace, exhaustion written across his face. The bruise beneath his eye had turned a sickly shade of yellow. I sat on the rug across from him, knees pulled up, the black envelope between us. For a while, neither of us spoke. The crackle of the fire filled the silence. Then he said softly, "You're wondering what's on that flash drive?" I nodded. He leaned forward, his voice low and steady. "Security footage. From last week. I installed hidden cameras in the study after your father demanded access to my accounts." He reached into his pocket and handed me a small USB stick, the same one from the dinner table. "I didn't want you to see it," he murmured, "but you deserve to know the truth." I hesitated before plugging it into the laptop on the coffee table. The screen flickered to life. At first, all I saw was the study bookshelves, the antique globe, the glow of lamplight. Then, the door burst open. My father's voice filled the speakers. "Sign it, Henry." Grandpa's voice was calm. I said, "No, Mark. You're pathetic," my father snarled. "You'd rather give your empire to a stranger than your own daughter." "She's not ready," Grandpa said quietly. "And you'll destroy everything I built." That's when it happened. My father's hand lashed out. A slap, a punch. The camera shook as Grandpa stumbled against the desk. Then Mom's voice entered the frame, cold and sharp. "Just do it, Dad. We're tired of waiting." I stopped the video, trembling. My stomach churned. "They actually—" "Yes," Grandpa said simply. "And the bruise you saw at dinner was the price I paid for saying no." My throat tightened. "Why didn't you go to the police?" He smiled sadly. "Because sometimes justice isn't about punishment. It's about exposure. Let them ruin themselves." He leaned back, eyes glinting in the firelight. "I needed them to show their true faces in front of you. And they did." I stared at him, torn between anger and heartbreak. "You recorded everything, changed your will, invited them tonight. You planned this." He nodded. "I've spent my life fixing other people's mistakes. Tonight, I corrected my own." For a moment, the only sound was the fire popping in the hearth. Then I whispered, "What happens now?" Grandpa gave a small, tired smile. "Now? We rebuild. You'll take over the companies slowly. I'll teach you what I know, and you'll teach me how to trust again." I reached for his hand, squeezing gently. "You don't have to do this alone." He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. "Neither do you." Outside, the wind howled through the trees, carrying the last echo of my parents' shouting voices away into the night. And for the first time, the house felt like it belonged to us, not as an empire, but as a beginning. A year later, the same dining room that once echoed with shouting and shame was warm again, filled with laughter, light, and the smell of roasted turkey. This time, there were no raised voices, no black envelopes, no bruises. Grandpa sat at the head of the table, his cane resting beside him, a soft smile lighting up his face. He looked older, yes, but lighter, freer, like the ghosts of last year had finally left him. I stood beside him, helping pour wine into crystal glasses for our guests, his old business partners, our loyal staff, even Mrs. Lane, the housekeeper who'd known me since I was 5. For the first time in forever, it felt like family. Halfway through dinner, a courier arrived at the door with a small envelope. The handwriting on it froze me in place, my mother's. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a short letter. Emma, I don't expect forgiveness. Your grandfather was right about us. We let greed blind us. I hope someday you'll see that I wasn't born cruel. I became that way trying to keep up with him. I'm sorry for what I allowed to happen that night. Take care of him. Mom. My hands trembled slightly as I folded the letter. Grandpa watched me quietly. Will you answer her? He asked. Maybe one day, I said. When I know she's changed. He nodded. Forgiveness isn't a debt. It's a gift. Give it when your heart's ready, not before. The words settled deep inside me, warm, steady, true. Later that night, after the guests had gone, Grandpa and I sat together by the fireplace. He stared into the flames, the light flickering across his weathered face. You've done well, Emma, he said softly. The companies are growing again. You've kept our name clean. I just followed what you taught me, I said. He smiled. No, you didn't. You did better. You led with empathy, not fear. That's something I never managed to do. Outside, snow began to fall soft, slow, cleansing. I looked at him, this man who had been both the foundation and the storm of my life, and said, You were right, Grandpa. Money doesn't reveal who we are, it magnifies it. I just hope I've become someone worth magnifying. He chuckled, eyes glistening. You already have. And as we sat there, fire crackling, snow drifting beyond the windows, I realized something simple and profound. The real inheritance wasn't his empire. It was his lesson. That blood may make you related, but loyalty makes you family.